American journalists are self-censoring the upcoming US election. And to anyone who values the freedom of debate and discourse, it should infuriate you. It is no secret that many journalists dislike Donald Trump. Many of them essentially accused him of being a Russian plant for several years until that conspiracy was debunked. And now these so-called journalists wonder why the trust between them and their viewers has dissipated. Trump won the Iowa Republican caucus this week, beating Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, with many major news networks refusing to then air his victory speech. They are just pretending like it never happened, and the clear frontrunner does not exist. Now, this is how MSNBC's Rachel Maddow justified the editorial call at her network.
At this point in the evening, the projected winner of the Iowa caucuses has just started giving his victory speech. We will keep an eye on that as it happens. We will let you know if there's any news made in that speech, if there's anything noteworthy, something substantive and important. The reason I'm saying this is, of course, there is a reason that we and other news organizations have generally stopped giving an unfiltered live platform to remarks by former President Trump. It is not out of spite. It is not a decision that we relish. It is a decision that we regularly revisit. And honestly, earnestly, it is not an easy decision.
All right, let's break down what Maddow is saying here. They are openly censoring the frontrunner of a presidential election so that you cannot even hear what he has to say. That's just so crazy. It treats the audience with contempt, but even worse, it creates a chasm of division between people who support Trump and those who don't. Because if Trump is so extreme that he cannot be aired on television, then what does that make you if you endorse him? Well, Maddow has some thoughts on Trump supporters as well.
Once you have radicalized one major party so that those are the preferences of the people who adhere to your party, the leader is interchangeable. And yes, Trumpism is sometimes what we call it. MAGA movement is probably a better way to do it. But there is an authoritarian movement inside Republican politics that isn't being bamboozled by Trump. They are pushing Trump to get more and more extreme, because the more extreme things he says, the more they adhere to him. And that is coming from a very large proportion of the American right that adheres to the Republican Party. And that's why this is a Republican Party problem more than it is the problem of one man and his leadership.
Now, ironically, the person crying about the dangers of authoritarianism is actually talking in an extremely authoritarian manner. These people are not journalists, and the public is waking up to their games. Now, Darren, when have journalists traditionally ever had to agree with every proposition put forward by a candidate to give him a platform? As Maddow is, we're in unprecedented times.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. I mean, that piece there that you ran from MSNBC, I mean, first of all, it struck me as just so self-important. And this is from a network that I think that they are the poorest rating of the cable television news networks, and it's kind of that kind of editorialising that's put them in such a poor position with viewers. I mean, Trump in the last presidential election got more votes, other than Biden, the victor, than anyone's ever attracted in any presidential election. So there's an enormous amount of Americans that supported him back then, and obviously, as we're seeing from Iowa, continue to support him. And the actual victory speech by Trump that they didn't run was actually quite noteworthy, because it was quite restrained, measured and gracious. It was complimentary of his opponents, which is a marked departure from the way that he's been conducting himself in the past. And he's obviously learned from some mistakes that he's made. I think the other point to make as well is that they clearly loathe him, and so does Biden and the Democrats and their friends in some parts of the media. But they actually make a Trump nomination more possible by doing that. People don't like it. And it allows him to play this martyr for the cause role that he kind of plays now on the stumps. And that makes it a lot more difficult for people like DeSantis and Haley to break through. So it's not really... if the purpose is to try and, suppress him, smother him and silence him, the outcome is actually the opposite.
They completely strengthen his case. And Christy, it's not some secret conspiracy. There is a public coordinated conspiracy to stop him from talking. And that's going to play very favourably to Trump. And I don't see how these hosts can't put that puzzle together and understand what the natural reaction to to censorship is going to be?
One, self-importance and self-preservation of their own opinion and their own opportunity to editorialise about how much they don't like Trump. There's a lot of people who don't like Donald Trump. My personal view is I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. I wouldn't listen to a speech he made. However, he looks to be going to be the Republican nominee, and even if he's not, he was the victor at this caucus event. Therefore, in the interest of reporting what is happening and what's going on in the election, that speech needed to be broadcast. Now, you don't have to like it, you can comment on it, but you should not censor a broadcast of the victor who's won a significantly important political event. That is just disgraceful.
Exactly. And
that is anti-journalism.
To Darren's point, it was quite restrained. So how are they guessing what he's going to say? They've got some magical powers where they can see the future and anticipate that what he's going to say is so violative that it can't be broadcast. That's an absurd proposition. But the other point is, why wouldn't you just fact check it? I mean, you're letting him say whatever he wants in a vacuum, and if you are the self-professed arbiter of truth, as a lot of these people think they are, that's an opportunity to get the facts out there. Pretending he doesn't exist is just simply insane.
It's lazy. Yeah, totally agree. They're just not doing their job, and you know, he may not win in New Hampshire. They have a track record of rejecting Iowa's chosen candidate, but still possible, though it's a long shot that he won't be the chosen nominee, so it's crazy that they're ignoring him. He's a major news event now, and he got more than half the votes, so they're ignoring a significant amount of TV viewers. And we'll
see what happens. We took the speech in full here at Sky News, and we'll keep doing so because to not is crazy.